Okay, welcome to 1000 Ways. The show inspired by the quote from Rumi from 800 years ago that there are 1000 ways to kiss the earth. There's a 1000 ways to do lots of things. So we're going to be chatting about that and discover some interesting things tonight. My guest tonight is Constable Don Realini. Don, I met him when he first moved to Lethbridge to be on the police force, and now he is a community resource officer. Welcome, Don.
Thank you very much for having me.
And yesterday, if you were tuned in yesterday and you saw Don and I have a conversation, it didn't go very well. But today, Sister Google is cooperating with us and we got things happening. All the tech is working. Don, why don't you talk to us about your role as a community resource officer and how you are of value to kids that are maybe going through a real tough time?
Well, I'm a member of a team, a school resource officer. We're in the elementary schools and the public schools. We're a small team and we have several schools assigned to each of us. We work in conjunction with the school administration, the wellness teams, the counselors. We're there to have a presence, to foster those positive interactions and get to know the students, the staff, and in the rare occurrence that there's an issue at the schools or dealing with the schools, then we've got that rapport and knowledge of the school system and the schools to help with that, and a little more working knowledge with the young offender and the Youth Justice Act. And so mentorships, role models, positive engagement, and being a resource for part of the administration team.
And just basically that presence that kids would have a comfort level in approaching somebody like you that might be able to help them. That's a huge deal, right? That they would have that comfort level.
It is very much. One of the things we do is lockdown drills, but it's nice to be there with enough frequency that every time a police officer shows up, that they don't automatically think there's a lockdown drill going, and that we're approachable, involved in school events, and any kind of activity they have going on. Serving meals or any kind of function contest, judging contests, or volunteer work, or anything to do with the school. So it's a great opportunity. It's been awesome to be in the schools and coming from patrol work and seeing that sort of positive energy, and it's a really nice change.
Yeah. Your law enforcement career, you've had quite a few different roles in your law enforcement career, right?
Played a few. I started out on patrols like everyone else. Worked on the downtown beat assignment with you quite see with the mountain bikes and foot patrol. Did a stint in criminal investigation division, and did some part-time roles, firearms instructor, armor, and back to patrols, and then now as a school resource officer.
We actually, if you recall, first met regarding our mutual interest in the firearm shooting sports, eh? So
yes.
yes. So and Don, by the way, is a very talented marksman, much more so than I. So and I found that out after I think the first day shooting was, oh yeah, this guy's got talent. Wow. So, and you've competed very successfully in the shooting sports.
I've had some success, and it's been great traveling and meeting people of similar interests, and competed both in the policing world and then the civilian world. And when I first started shooting, there was a lot of police officers active in the competitive sports, so it was awesome for me to get to know police officers and myself have some mentorship opportunities, and then one day I grew up and here I am.
Actually, when we first met, and we were doing some of that PPC shooting, kind of learning that sport a bit. Then you had mentioned about, I had asked you why the police, and do you recall your answer?
Yes, you reminded me of that, and I had to chuckle. But at that time, there's numerous reasons, but an overriding thought I had was that if I had 25 to 30 years labor to contribute, did I want to invest in a corporation, or did I want to put that into a community or a service? And it just, for me, it was an easy choice.
Right. Yeah. Get paid for your services, but deliver it directly to the people who are benefiting, not basically making some corporation richer kind of a thing, but really being of service to the folks. I was very impressed with that answer, especially from such a young Don that I met at that time. So it's been a few years there, my friend.
It has, and a few gray hairs, and it's been a wild ride, and a lot of experiences, and this job challenges you on a daily basis, and I can't believe it's been it's 18 years, going on 19 soon. So
yeah, quite a career. So back to the community resource officer. So you went through about the provincial government programs that exist to support kids, and then the educational system, and then the criminal justice system, and kind of how there's those level of resources that are available for kids who might be experiencing trauma or have experienced trauma in their lives. And but there's also a role for civilians, isn't there? Is there a role that a caring adult could make?
absolutely, you can't leave it up to any one organization, and it takes many people to be successful. And I think growing up, some of the positive influences I had were some of my coaches in sports, those parents that volunteered for nothing year after year. You just kind of expected them that Mr. So-and-so would be coaching baseball, and Mr. So-and-so would be coaching hockey every year, and they were always there. They're always dependable, and teaching you, as much about some life skills as about the game, and winning and losing, and fair play, and some of those principles of sportsmanship, and so most definitely, you don't have to be from any walk of life or a certain discipline. Everybody can have an impact.
Sure. And when you were saying about coaches you've had, in what sports were you involved with, Don?
I played hockey and baseball, and of course, I got involved shooting at a young age with some of the Ontario summer and winter games programs, and so there was some really good mentoring and coaching, and it made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. Let me tell you my Maurice Lanoux story. Are you ready for this?
Yes, go.
All right. Okay. Here it goes. When I was young, I don't know how old, 13 to maybe 18 or 17, something like that, I played hockey, and I wasn't a particularly athletic individual, but I had a coach. Maurice Lanoux was his name, and Maurice, had a dairy farm and drove the school bus and volunteered his time coaching us kids hockey, right? And he taught us, so many great lessons about working together, and about, how you deal with failure, and how you deal with defeat, or how you learn from those, and how you win and lose together, and those kind of things. And anyways, it was a very good experience for me. And when I was involved in coaching kids, because I did a lot of coaching with children with firearms, right? And I think firearms are a great tool to teach responsibility, is my belief. And I think that probably you have experienced that too. When you first learned it, there were some pretty rigid rules that if you wanted to play, this is the only way you could do it, right? So,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyways, long and the short of it is, I go and I write, like 15 years ago, I write a letter to Maurice Lanoux, and I say, Maurice, you don't remember me probably, but I was one of your kids that you coached hockey with, and I just wanted to thank you for, your contribution. I can understand what you were doing now, because I've been doing it, right? So I get a feel for what's involved with that. And I tried to connect with him, and it didn't happen, which is fine. And then about 10 years after that, I got a letter from his son. and his son said, "Hey, my dad's passed away, but what I wanted to tell you was in his cabinet of all his special documents was your letter thanking him." So, I mean, definitely he made a big difference in your life, but you thanking him was something very important to him as well. So gratitude, it goes a long ways, right? That's the reality. That's the moral of the story, I guess.
For sure.
Are you frozen? Oh, there you go.
It feeds that interest and that passion to come back, keep coaching and keep working, because it's a thankless job, and we always thanked our coaches at the end of the year. It was kind of sort of an automatic thing that we always did, but after becoming a parent and seeing how tiring shift work is, and most of my coaches all worked full-time jobs, most of them shift work 12 hours, and then showing up every weekend, every evening, coaching and helping and having energy. It's more profound now that I'm an adult than when I was at the time at the youth.
Yes. Sorry, you kind of froze up a little bit there, Don. Sorry. So yes, I agree entirely. It's very important. And the people that do that and that made a difference in our lives, it's awesome that they did that. And whatever way that we and our other folks that are out there can contribute back in that way, I think is pretty amazing and makes a big difference for a child, right? That having a relationship with another adult, if you got mom and dad already, that's great, but another adult who cares for your welfare, that's super important in terms of that child's resilience and ability to bounce back from when things don't go very well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So so here's what I'm trying to get at, Don. And I mentioned before we started this thing, I'm trying to get to a way that caring adults who want to make a difference in a child's life can contribute, right? That, they're properly vetted, of course. They've got their vulnerable persons checks and all that kind of thing. We make sure that there's nobody that's going to be a harm to a child. But in terms of what help they might be able to do, easy things that a caring adult could learn in order to be of value to children who have suffered some trauma in their lives and maybe need a little bit more encouragement, kind of a thing. Have you had those kind of experiences, or do you have any thoughts or suggestions for me of things that might work? We've already talked about coaching type things, right? You mentioned mentoring before as well, which is super important. Any other thoughts there as well?
I think just based on some of my experiences based on and off the job, is that kids seem to have a strong need to connect with people and feel a sense of belonging, connectivity, and if there's no one there filling their cup, they're going to seek that out. If we don't provide them with that need, with that involvement, and to be there with them, they're going to seek that attention and fill that desire somewhere else, and it can be a bit of a roll of dice where they attain that. So people who are in a stable position and can offer their time, their energy, their interests and patience, and that's huge. Kids want to feel a sense of belonging and connected to something. So it's a huge resource, and like you say, that's not specific to any job function or occupation or background. Being there, being involved, being stable, and kind.
Yeah, no, makes really good sense. One thing that we are talking about the other day, when our discussion got interrupted, when we were chatting about that, you were talking about where kids, they really want to try and please, right? They want to try and please the adults in their life, right? And which also made me think of Dr. Bruce. What? We okay? Oh, Dr. Bruce Perry's comments about where kids will often believe if they've been abused in their as a child, they believe somehow that they're at fault always for that, right? Because they look at their parent as somebody who, you know, could never harm them because they're a perfect being, kind of a thing. So if they've been abused or hurt in that way, it must be something they have done, the child has done. And some kids will, you know, hold that blame for their whole life, kind of a thing, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, I've seen that, and you know, there's parents that have struggled. There's kids that suffered abuse at the hands of the parents, and those tragic calls where you're there most times with child and family services, and even though the parent has been awful to them, they want nothing more. They still want that love, that connectivity to that parent, and even though they've suffered abuse, and
Yeah.
it's hard to see that and understand that sometimes, and but the need, the desire is so strong, and it's tough in our job, and I know me personally, I never like to sometimes we have to arrest parents, and I never like doing that in front of the children, because no matter what they've done, what type of outstanding warrants they have, you know, to that child, they're the most important person in the world. They're everything. And so that's something that I struggled with and I hate doing. And only when I'm forced to is to having to arrest a parent in front of a child. And you can see that they just don't understand. And you can tell them the police are the good guys, and they're here for all these reasons, but they just see you arresting that most important person in their life.
Yeah, no, I can see how that'd be very traumatic. And I'm sure sometimes there's no options. You don't have a choice. But when you do, obviously you're trying to avoid that trauma for the child, but still get the arrest made, right? So
yes, at all costs. And you know, hey, can you go? Let's go outside, and you know, and make every effort.
cool.
And,
Oh, sorry, you were saying something else?
no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Don, our audio is going wonky. Come on, Google. It's got nothing to do with Google. I call all the technology Google.
You know, things only go awry when IT is not here.
Are you back with me? Your magnetic personality messes with the electromagnetic frequencies or something, man. So, Don, a goofy question: are there people who are just evil?
Yes, simple answer. You know, you're scratching at some pretty profound thinking questions, but yeah, evil does exist. I've seen it, and you can try and rationalize it all you want, but just there's some acts that you can't see logic. You just can't make sense of illogical acts.
Right. Yeah, there's no way you could say how could a human being come to this choice? How could a normal human being come to this choice, right, or this act, right? I'm sure that there's some things that you've seen said, oh yeah, that's bizarre, right? So yeah, because I think a lot of times it's more circumstances driven that result in a very stupid act or a thoughtless act or that kind of a thing, more so than uh, intentional malice to another person. Would that be a fair statement?
For sure, and you know, the vast majority of the matters we deal with is circumstances, or you can see some sort of rationale. They push somebody as they're trying to steal something from a store, and technically it's robbery, but it's not. You know, there's some action reaction to the thinking process, but there's some that are just you can't wrap your head around.
Got it. Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure that those are pretty down days when you run across those kind of circumstances. I think what you do is incredibly hard work. Like police officers, you as well, Don, but all police officers, the work they do, that's very, very challenging work. And I have a tremendous respect for it. I don't think it's work that I could do. I don't think I could be strong enough to handle people having, those kind of horrible days in their lives, kind of a thing. Some they've caused and some that were done to them. But either way, yeah, that's got to be a tough go sometimes.
It is. And you really need those outlets in your private life to help with that. I always say I love and hate this job for many reasons, and it's some days are great, some days are good, some days could be better. But you don't work alone; you work with the team as well, and that certainly helps. But yeah, it's a strange job to be sure. And when you're running around young and single, you're doing the work and you're not thinking about risks and impact and things. And then years later, once you have a family, and then you see your work starting to impact them and some of the things that come home with you, and that's like, well, they didn't sign up for this, and that gets a little harder.
Well, in your household, there's a lot more understanding of what the work involves, right? At your home, so.
Yes, my wife is also a dispatcher, and so I always joke that she tells me what to do at work and at home. So
Nice.
keeps me on course.
Perfect. That's good news. Actually, this during COVID, I've been spending a lot more time at home, and I was hanging out with my wife. She's actually a very lovely woman. I'm not sure I realized that before. Oh my goodness, she's smart too. If I listen to her, things go pretty well generally. So yeah.
It's taken me a few years, but I've slowly come to that realization myself. Oh, I think we froze up a bit there.
How are you, Don? You still there?
Good. I'm still
All
here.
right. Gosh darn, we were chatting away and then lost the signal. Come on. Anyways, as you were saying, you get told what to do at home. You always know what to do.
I think you're freezing up there again, Alan.
Hey, Don, try to reconnect again here. Oh. Yeah, it seems like we're cooking again. Well, I'm on anyways. Oh, wait a minute. I got to put my light back on. Sure. No. Of course not. Oh, it looks like hallelujah.
Hey,
You know what? It was live, so we had like 20 minutes of dead air there, it looks like. But anyways, we're back. How nice. So, Dawn, we were just chatting about, sometimes there's people who are very what would you call it, very negative towards the police force, that are very critical of their actions, those kind of things. But then there's others that you see supporters, and you hear from people who are appreciative of what you do. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, for sure. And it's awesome to be thanked and to see some feedback, and those rare files where you've made a small difference. And the in the last, I'd say, probably 18 months, I've had more coffees purchased for me and going through the drive-through at Tim Hortons, and the vehicle ahead pays for it, and before I can even say anything, they're gone. And someone's reached out and to say thank you, and bought me a coffee, and it's very humbling. And I feel bad in some ways, because I'm working, I'm employed, and there's a lot of people that are not right now. So it's very humbling and very grateful, and it's very touching.
Yeah, if you're during these times, if you have a job, your income is still coming in unabated, you're in pretty good. If you're that and you're healthy, you're doing in pretty good shape, right? Like,
Absolutely.
really. Yeah, exactly. And then even better for guys like me who could do most of my work at home, life is pretty damn good. I could just work a little here, then go have a hot tub, and then work a little bit more, and always works really good. So yes. So tell me, Dawn, about self-care. We already said policing is tough work, right? And some of the situations you hear of, some of the situations you have to see, some of the things that a child tells you in the work of your day are very, very tough, right? So what's your self-care? How do you look after yourself?
Uh, it's always changing. I don't think I have any one recipe. I invest time back to my family. They help and they ground me. Um, we take little trips. We do things as a family. Sometimes it's a matter of just getting on my mountain bike, or scaring myself skiing, or just spending some time on the firearms range, and just kind of having that alone time, and is helpful too. Um, and then, um, yeah, it's little things sometimes that make a difference.
Hey, do you want to know a surefire way to win a bet with a buddy about something you're arguing about?
I didn't maybe know the answer ahead of time.
Do you know George Roth? Do you know who George is?
I don't think so.
He helps a bunch at the range, and he helps me with the firearm safety courses and those kind of things. And he's a big CZ fan, and I'm a big Glock fan. And I know you're not a Glock fan, but I'm a Glock fan, and he's a CZ fan. So when we have our little firearm safety courses, we have a little banter back and forth about what the better pistol is, right? So recently I thought, oh, George, I got you, man. I sent him money. I owed him some money. So I sent him some money. And then I put in the question, the security question, world's best pistol, question mark. And so he was only catch that EMT if he put Glock in the box. So
That's brilliant.
I thought it was pretty good. I was pretty happy about that. So yes. And so your kids were there 7 and 8, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So they're that'd be a very interesting age to have two young people. That's pretty exciting stuff. They're go wear you out by the time you get home after spending some time with them, eh?
It is, and it's a game changer, as they say, and it also, it very much changes how you look at policing, and it impacts your thinking as well on the job, and so I'm very grateful for them, and enjoy spending time with them.
Yeah, no kidding. And this, if I can tell you advice as an older man to a younger man, just like relish those opportunities, because and don't worry about getting it right. You're not going to get it right. That's the reality of it. Gabor Mate. Do you know who he is?
No.
Anyways, there's a doctor out of Vancouver who's a big addiction specialist, right? And he talks about childhood trauma and those kind of things. And he says, parenting is a tough job. And if you think that your parenting, you might have screwed up your kids, yeah, don't even think about it. You did. Like everybody does. Nobody gets this right. So that okay? Well, that cuts some slack, anyways. So yeah. I know my daughter, Caitlin Nicole Friesen, PhD candidate. I am very proud of her. She's an awesome young lady, perhaps despite my parenting abilities, but yeah, she's awesome. So maybe it's because my wife is a really good mom. Yes. So what else do we want to chat about, Don?
I don't know. I was kind of curious what you had in mind.
Well, pretty much what we've chatted about. I think I told you this, that I have kind of refocused myself, that I want to make sure that I make a difference in helping people to have a healthy, happy human existence, human lives. So how can we do that? I think part of that is reducing adverse childhood experiences, like stopping them if possible, or if they do happen, reducing the frequency, intensity, and the impact of those adverse childhood experiences. So to take those barriers away from people having good lives, right? Because it gets way more challenging, as if you've seen a young person in the school who they came in and they were very disheveled and agitated, and you could see that they were having a tough day. They're not going to have much success learning that day, right? Like, you just can't function at your best if you're all stressed out and worried and fearful that, the next hit is coming or the next problem is going to occur on your doorstep, right?
Oh, for sure. There has to be some stability in the home, and love, caring, and that has to be fostered. And if it's not, wow, it's a struggle at the best of times. And I can't imagine what it would be like in some of the homes I've been in.
Yeah, no kidding. And anything, even if there was a natural tendency for it to be challenging household to begin with, then you put poverty on where you can't pay your rent or can't have groceries, then that exacerbates any kind of a home life you already have, right? Makes it even worse, right? So
I would think so.
Yeah. Did you hear about the Mustard Seed and their thing for some permanent supported housing in Lethbridge?
No, I haven't.
I was on a call with the SACPA folks, the Southern Alberta Council on Public Affairs, and they had a gentleman from the Mustard Seed on. And basically the plan is to buy the Ramada, that used to be the Heidelberg back in the day, the Ramada, and then turn that into a permanent supported housing, because there's I don't know, the need is for about like 180 people who are homeless, and like that's going to provide like 65, boom, like that kind of a thing, right? House those many people right away. So something along those lines. But basically, it's just a very cost effective way to provide some housing, because the thought is if they have some housing, well, then you can help them with stabilizing their medications or controlling their substance use disorders that they might have, or those kind of things, right? And just that they would be able to solve their food insecurity, and have a place to sleep. And I can't imagine what it's like to be living on the street when it gets like -20, right? I mean, wow, that's that's uh that's incredibly tough existence. So yes. So Don, with all our technical woes and everything in the meantime, we had a nice chat on the phone while we were waiting for the internet to come back. That was fun. But I'm not sure really now what else we want to talk about. I told you my Maurice Lanoux story. Do you have a coach story, a coach that made a big difference for you when you're a young man?
I had a few for sure. It caused reflection when you brought your story up. There were some coaches that, uh, you know, when you're working full time and a parent, and you seem to be a constant various states of tired and fatigue, and there just never seemed enough time in the day. So it's just all the more impressive looking back. And I remember some coaches, Eric Lundmark, was always a presence as a baseball coach. And I never had that opportunity or had the wherewithal to go back and thank him for that kind of commitment and contribution. And that's huge. There was lots of coaches that helped me in spending time um, with shooting for sure. Um, I think some of the names: Robert McGilvery, high level coach for pistol shooting. Um, I think of Bill Evanstone, who got me introduced into shooting. I there was quite a few, and the commitment, the time, and they're always there, and you don't. I don't necessarily think you take it for granted, but you just always assume they're going to be there, and they always are. And now that I'm working and struggling to make, with policing and shift work, you're constantly missing, family occasions, birth dates, Christmases, holidays. It's just astonishing that they made this work and that they were there.
Yeah, exactly. No, and now probably a little bit when they volunteered at that time, perhaps the pace of life wasn't what it is just before COVID hit, right? I think we were turning pretty fast. I think everybody's moving. It seemed to me, and that's one thing I guess I didn't intend to it or didn't even know that I liked the slower pace. But man, I used to drive 4,000 kilometers roughly a month, so that'd be like 40 hours of time 40 hours per month in the car, right? Well, I barely drive at all now, right? That Tesla's sitting in the garage almost all the time, and I still enjoy driving it, but it's just all of a sudden I found 40 hours in a month. So I've been having all kinds of time to take some courses and do some reading, and it's been a very great personal growth time for me. So, yeah, not everybody, of course, has that luxury, but for me, it's been good. So, yeah.
Well, we've been busy. I always say policing's not like the fisheries. We don't run out of fish to catch. So it's the guys here and girls they've been busy and they've been working hard, and it's a tough grind.
Yeah. Is Christmas Christmas would be a quiet time normally for crime, wouldn't it? Would that not slow up a bit?
It varies. It can be quiet. It can be very busy. Christmas time, you have a whole host of pressures on families and expectations, and so it can be a difficult time. And especially this job, things change so quickly from minute to minute. You can be bored, and then a call comes in, and you're busy for the next 3 hours straight.
Yeah. No, makes sense. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting Christmas for us all. I mean, for most of us, with more family and traveling, right, and getting together with family, and that ain't going to happen, right? So it'll be the folks that were already isolated are now going to be even more isolated, right? That's going to be a challenge that way. Yeah. I have a plan for that's going to help a little bit, maybe. My wife and I, Corolla, the lovely Corolla, and I, we're going to do a thing like this on StreamYard and just put it to Facebook Live, and then give the link out in the Facebook Live thing and say, hey, Corolla and I are sitting around the kitchen table. You want to join us and have a chat? Here's the link. And then just like you came onto this call, they click on it, and then we just impart them of the call, and then we have a nice little chat. Maybe it'll work.
That sounds interesting.
I'm going to try it. Probably, maybe tomorrow. Today's what, Thursday? Maybe tomorrow. But in the next few days, we're going to give it a go and see what it comes up with. If nothing else, just Kroll and I'll have a chat. And that's okay too. So, yeah. Yes. Well, sir, I think we got it covered. I think we've solved all the problems, haven't we?
Sure, absolutely.
Let's go with that for a couple minutes anyway. So, Don, I think what the work you do is very hard work. You and the men and women of the Lethbridge Police Service, the work that you do, and I think that your role in the community resource officer role, I think that's a great, like, community policing at its best. So I think that's a super important role for you and your team in that role. And I don't know if you share this optimism, and you might not even know the man, but I'm a big fan of your new police chief, Shaheen. I think he's going to be awesome. I think he's going to do a great job. So you don't have to comment. I'm just stating my opinion.
I'm sure he'll do quite well.
I think so. Yes, I think so. So, my friend, keep yourself well. And thank you for joining us. And I don't know why you and I have such technological challenges. But anyways, we got through it. I think it worked. And keep well, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Don. See ya.
Bye.